Last time on Meanwhile, Back on the Ranch, Tom Pelletier took us step-by-step through the process of building an A-frame and using it to swell the land. In this episode, Tom also shares why used hay is a key ingredient, not just for making swells, but also for growing vegetation, here on a ranch in Acton, California.
So basically what this is, this goes back to that one man's garbage is another man's gold. This pile here came to us from a group called the Farm Sanctuary, which is about 5 miles from here in Acton. This is basically used hay. No way to sugarcoat it. It's hay that was put in the animal living areas, and they have, left their gifts inside of it. So you've got goats and chickens and guineas and pigs and donkeys and horses and alpacas and all their, I usually call them freeze-dried crystals. Initial use for this water, but we're literally actually adding to the compost feed right now while we keep the place a little bit more hygienic. In other words, none of this water is actually wasted because it's going to serve more purposes after it's done with this initial one. I'm going to dig a little bit down into this used hay because this looks like, oh, it's just dirt in here, but it's not. There's a reason there's a bunch of little goat pellets and no goats, among other things. So all this is the hay that came from Farm Sanctuary. And this is just nature doing what nature does, and all we're doing is helping speed up the process. It used to be used hay is now this beautiful black rich soil, and you see all these worms are happily going to town on eggshells and coffee grounds. And here's the actual Amazon boxes when we get deliveries up here. Are all just going right back to earth. It's all biomass. Here, I'm going to give this to the chickens. What's that? Oh, what do we got there? What do we got there? Protein. We've never added worms up here. These worms just showed up when the conditions got right. Now they're multiplying. This right here is one of my sort of, canary in the coal mine fruit trees. This is a peach tree, and we are going right into winter. So it was green and lush, just a month ago even. But windstorm that just happened, and the fact that the weather's coming, and then even animals standing on top of these young branches, taking what they want. That's part of nature too, so we're good with that. It has them looking not as good as they could. This tree over here, if we take a closer look, this is a peach tree that's been in the ground for about 4 years. And essentially, we put these in the ground, and I didn't even think that any would make it 4 years, but we had to know what the ground could support. And so here, where we put this in the ground, we've actually contoured the land to bring water to it. And the wind has just come through and done a number on the hay that we had laid on the top of it. But if you look closely, you can see there's actually some nice, rich soil forming here. This is an impossibility without having done this intentionally out here in Acton. So we're actually getting some nice soil creation happening. We've got several inches of soil here, and it's actually cold and wet to the touch. And it's been pretty hot out here recently. So this tree has a moisture source right now. Now the interesting thing is we've covered this with layers. You can see a little bit of the residual of it left over of used hay, which is a great biological material that we source from a local farm sanctuary. And it's hay that's been used by the animals. And so it's full of nutrients, or as I call them, freeze-dried crystals. And when the water comes, it basically activates all that mineral-rich source of material, turns it back into soil. Now, the interesting challenge is that this tree is now sitting with no irrigation in the direct sun day after day after day, and it's it's brutally hot out here sometimes. As a fruit tree, the growth is stunted. And so in its first 5 years, you really want it to have a chance to not have to fight for its existence. And these trees are fighting for their existence. And they've taught me that certain trees will work out here. Citrus didn't go too well. The stone fruits, I've got apple, we've got pear, we've got several varieties of peach trees. But what's basically happening is, because there's not much to eat out here, squirrels, moles, birds, rats, you name it, all of nature's creatures cumulatively are taking all the fruit, all the flowers off these young trees. What are we doing to take it to the next level?